I'm sure each of you have about 40. But if you've got one that you really want to get in that Q&A session, friendly reminder, we've only got time for about 3 questions. So the ones that are really going to matter are the ones that you write down in the table activities after this little discussion. So if your question doesn't get asked when we do the little run around with the microphones, don't worry, it won't get lost. But if you've got a really important question and you want to ask it, get prepared now. As it was said in the previous session, know what you need, get ready and get your info. The second person, and I'll introduce them as they come up. Second person is a mum. She's from the Hunter Valley. That was one of the original rollout sites up in the Hunter Valley for the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And we've got a video of her story as well to show you how she navigated that system critically with some supports, as was previously mentioned in the last session. People, knowledgeable people, local supporter workers. So could I get you to give a warm welcome to Mary Dawkins from the NDIA and Kathy Natras, mum extraordinaire. Come on up. And if we could get the mics, beautiful. We're going to spend a couple of minutes just so they can introduce themselves, where they fit in this scheme of things, where Mary fits in the NDIA maze, and then we're going to kick into a video. It goes for about 8 minutes of your story. You'll be able to see it down there. And then we're going to do the Q&A. So thank you for being part of this. I'll leave it up to you now. If you want to introduce yourselves, then we'll kick into it.
I'm a mum of 2 adult children. My eldest son Daniel has a genetic disorder, and due to that he has treatment-resistant schizophrenia. He was hospitalised in 2011 through to the end of 2012, 301 days exactly. After he was discharged, we were starting to look around for support services, and the NDIS was rolling out in the Hunter. So Daniel has had a plan since November 2013, and I can say today it is working wonderfully for us. Thank you.
So nice to hear. I'm Mary Hawkins. I've been with the agency for the setting up phase. So I joined when there was just a few of us down in Canberra back in 2012, and then we got the trial sites up and running in July 2013. And I actually spent a little bit of time up in the Hunter. I did 3 months stint up there as regional manager. So I've worked mostly at the national level in terms of what services should be provided, the pricing and all of that. And service models as well, including the one for early childhood, which is, you know, a gold standard program we now have. But I always lived in Sydney, so when we were talking about Nepean Blue Mountains early startup, I popped out there, and I've been working out from that region ever since. And we started initially there concentrating on 0 to 18-year-olds. And of course, from July last year, we've moved to of all ages, and the region itself has spread. Now, I saw only a very few hands go up to say you'd had any experience of the NDIS. Possibly that is because you haven't got someone in your family in a New South Wales government-funded program, or you live in a region in which we haven't yet rolled out. So from tomorrow, the 1st of July, we roll out across all of the state, so there will be statewide coverage from tomorrow, and also more people who didn't get funded programs previously will be able to enter the scheme in the coming year, because we've got about 25,000 places that we can make available across the state.
I was doing uni, I was studying to be a doctor. I had a very severe depression and I was psychotic. But ever since then, maybe every 18 months to 2 years, even less sometimes, I've landed in hospital. You know, my wish would be that I could still be a doctor. But I got to a point where I thought I was dangerous. So that's a big loss for me. 3 years ago, I had an admission where I was, again, had a psychotic depressive illness. And when I got out of hospital, I was a bit disorganised and having trouble with my memory. And what happened was that I lost the house that I was living in. Like, I was renting and I got kicked out and I had nowhere to go. I can't tell you how unsettling that was. Oh, it's one of the worst experiences I've ever had. It's hard to do it on your own, you know. I've had it very difficult.
Well, Daniel was diagnosed with a genetic disorder when he was 5 years old, and he suffered medical, problems all of his life. But just after his 23rd birthday, he had his first psychotic episode, and he's been diagnosed with treatment-resistant schizophrenia. Daniel has lost all of his skills with his personal care, his life-living skills, and his driving confidence. Well, it was very difficult for me. I'm a single mum, and Daniel was in hospital for 10 months. I was working full-time, and I actually cut back to part-time 4 months into his hospital stay because it was just couldn't cope, just so exhausted, because you're just so mentally drained.
It's interesting because I had a very severe illness at the end of last year. Because I became very depressed, my affairs were in a terrible state. So things like electricity hadn't been paid. This whole room was full of papers. You know, you're always fragile when you come out of hospital, but this time they did this kind of intensive support funded by the NDIS, which has made a huge difference in terms of my steadying myself, and getting things done. I've done things like a budget, because my budget was a little bit unrealistic before. We've done a resume. I do my weekly shop with her. Just having the support of someone makes a huge, huge difference.
But now that we have, help through the NDIS, it's just taken a tremendous amount of pressure off me. A support worker comes in 3 days a week, and we also have given Daniel some chores to do around the house, and just simple things like emptying the dishwasher, emptying the recycling, making his bed, wiping his toilet over, and just helping him with cooking skills. And then he also has a young guy that comes in and takes him out for social interaction. So they go 10-pin bowling, to the movies. So, he's getting out in the community and having contact with other people other than just myself. I believe that if we didn't have the funding from the NDIS, that Daniel would probably be still sitting on the lounge watching Jurassic Park.
I think I'm much weller because of it. I have to tell you that I have never, ever felt so steady and so supported as I have in this last year. Without the support, I ended up homeless. That's the basic bottom line.
I'm actually, for the first time, feel a little bit of hope, especially having the occupational therapists come in and do some work with Daniel. I really kind of feel we're starting to making some leaps and bounds now, and yeah, it's really quite exciting.
The NDIS has the possibility that people can actually get the individualised support they need to do the things they want to do. Just because someone sits there like this, don't you believe that they don't have a dream for their life? They do. I would love a relationship. I would love to, what I'd love to do? I'd like to do a PhD on peer work. That's what I would really love to do. We'll just take little baby steps and, getting a resume together.
Thank you for letting us show that. We've got time, as I said, for a couple of questions, as a starting point. And I'm going to steal one of the microphones so that we've got questions from down here. Lisa's going to run around with it. And I'll have to keep the answers fairly brief as much as possible. So if there's a question that you want to ask or the answer isn't as full as you need, Mary has to go at lunchtime. So if there's any questions that are burning for her, please make a note with your facilitator on your table. They can give it to us and we'll hand them on. You're here all day. So please give her a rest occasionally when you go and have a chat. We've got 2 questions so far, and I'm just going to nominate those 2 for the moment. David is first. Jody is second. And if we get time, we're going to go this side of the room. So we get somebody from over here at the moment rather than just this side. It has to be a bit arbitrary that way. So number 3 if we get time, and then number 4. So David, if you could ask your question and kick on.
Thanks, Justin. Is that coming across all right? David Russell, I'm a caring dad. My daughter was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2014. She spent 55 weeks in hospitals over 3 episodes in 2.5 years. She's now in the clozapine program and doing really well. I'm separated from my daughter. She lives with her mum in Newcastle now. She's for the first time started to want to engage with services. We talked to her about NDIS and she was keen on the idea, which is a really significant thing. I talked to her caseworker in the Newcastle rehab team and was informed by them they would not bother applying because they considered her to be too high functioning to qualify. I don't think this is an unusual case, and it seems that only the very most people with the highest level of social dysfunction will qualify for NDIS, which leaves a massive gap of other people. So I'm just wondering what the plan is for all those other people. Thank you.
Probably not an answer that I can really give, but except that, yes, you're right. The NDIS is designed for people with the most significant disabling effect from whatever their condition is, whether it's mental health or a physical injury or and disability. But I know that the federal government announced additional funding in the last budget, which was to actually enable mental health services to provide some additional assistance. But it would be interesting for us to actually talk to the caseworkers that she's working with. I mean, we can provide some early intervention. It doesn't have to be for a person's life. There is one aspect that where we can provide some additional funding to get people on the road to recovery. So that is possible. The majority of people obviously have permanent disability and quite significant.
Next question was Jody.
So could I just respond to that? My advice is to never accept no as an answer. Okay. You have to be the voice for your loved one who is not well. I would suggest apply, gather all your information and just keep pushing it.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Hi. I just would like to know what support is there for the carer within the NDIS?
Yes. So we don't use the term respite, but we do actually provide some additional supports for carers to ensure that they can maintain their caring role, which is a long way of saying it, isn't it? But I've asked people who advise us, our advisory council, can they come up with a different term so that we can all understand it, we can all share it? Hasn't happened so far. I've only been asking for 3 years. But yes, we do, and we also can provide funding to actually ensure that the carers understand the impact of the condition for their person, and that they for their family member, and that they can, are enabled to assist them some more, more than they normally would, because these things you don't know. You don't know about disability until you encounter it. You don't know about the effect, and you don't know how you can help. And that's all part of the assistance that can be provided through funded support workers and through therapists.
When I asked for what education I could receive, this is on a personal note, as a carer, I was told by the person, no. So, and that would include coming to places like these forums that cost money.
Oh, no, we don't fund that. No, you're right, we don't fund those. But we will certainly provide. I take your point that we don't fund them.
However, there should be funding available in a package for your loved one to be supported while you're away from them to be able to attend, something like this. In my son's plan, there is funding available for Daniel to have overnight support. So a support worker come in and sleep over, or overnight, just so I can have a break. Sometimes it isn't mentioned to you in a planning meeting, so just be aware that there is funding available.
And if you want to trawl through our price guide, it's actually listed there in its euphemistic way.
Question number. Same question. Oh, thank you.
I'd like to ask you, the NDIS, to support coordinator be in our main language. If it be in our language, it's very helpful. For example, for me, I can't understand the budget for my son, and how can I manage? I'm hopeless to understand it. And other things, it's right now, it's half of 2017 passed, and my support coordinator is in waiting list for him to put some psychologist see my son and makes plan for him for behavior therapy and personal trainer, self-care and speech therapy, other things. And said we are in the long waiting list, and they should make plan for him, and then they train with my son. So if I can't use this budget for this year to end of 2007, I lose it, and for next year I'm worried they think he doesn't need it and cut it for me. And I'm very anxious and under pressure for it. And something else, I'm for bowel cancer, I'm under chemotherapy, and my husband's heart is not good. Maybe next month he needs a surgery. So I'm busy. I hope the support coordinator or somebody else can manage regularly for my son, or contact me at least once a month or once 2 months to contact me and make the regular plan for my son. If I be engaged for my health, my husband, my son missed the budget.
Okay, so there's a few things in your question. Firstly, we should have appointed a support coordinator in your own language. We should have. If we haven't, come back to us and we'll sort it, because we know that that's very important. The second thing is that, unfortunately, we have increased the demand on professional services. So the availability is sometimes quite, we haven't made more practitioners out there. We've made more funds available, so more practitioners are being used and more regularly. So that is an area that we do need to work on, and behavioural support is certainly an area that is, there's not enough people doing that good work, you know, good practitioners. But we could get the support coordinators, maybe this one out of area. The other is you don't lose your budget. If you haven't been able to use the money, we will look when we come to the new plan. We will say, we'll ask why you did it. You'll say, I couldn't get services. The support coordinator will, you know, tell us that that's the story as well. And so we will know to actually make those funds available in next year's plan. The other thing is if the support coordinator isn't contacting you sufficiently or you need additional support, you should discuss that with them and they should come back to us. Okay?
Yeah, I'd just like to say...
Sorry, Dolly.
Yeah.
Did you need to add anything to that?
Having a coordinator of support is vital with an NDIS plan. Mine is a lifesaver. Just briefly, just a bit of an update since that video was filmed. It went downhill really badly. We lost a couple of support workers. So practically all of 2016, I only had one, the lady that was in the video there, and I found myself supporting Daniel for the other 4 days of the week, and it nearly killed me physically and emotionally. However, just through the support of my coordinator and perseverance and hard work, Daniel now has 3 support workers and having supports over 6 to 7 days a week now, and oh my gosh, it has made a difference. I had to give up work completely because he has such a high level of care, need of care. However, great news, earlier this year I was able to return to paid employment and I am now doing support work myself, which is amazing to be able to, so I have a support worker come in for Daniel and I go out and support somebody. To be able to make a difference in somebody else's life is just so rewarding, and I love the NDIS, and honestly, before the plan kicked in, Daniel's life was sitting watching movies. He would watch Jurassic Park 1, 2 and 3 every day. That was his life. He's now moved on to Twister, the movie, but he's busy. He, you know, he's going places I never thought he would go. It's just, you know, if you're having difficulty, hang in there, because it's, yeah.
We've got...
can I just say, Michael, can I just have my answer?
Yeah, in a sec, Dolly.
Okay.
We've got 2 last questions that we've said yes to. One over here and one over here, just so that you know we're coming to you. If I could ask for your responses, I'll have to keep them really tight. You're pretty awesome the way you're doing it, but we'll have to keep them extra tight,
I'll make it short.
and then we'll follow on, okay?
I'll
Thank
make
you.
it short, Michael.
Thanks,
Kathy, I'd like to say, yeah, we'd like to all be in your place and your space. I'd just like to reflect back to the lady from the front. Yeah, look, I've been to quite a few workshops. I still don't understand the NDIS, and I'd like to say that if us as carers is not understanding it, well then how can we reflect on who we are caring for? How can they understand it? So, you know, it's for me, it's up in the air. I don't understand it.
I think the reality of getting a plan really helps a lot.
And look, I learned a lot of what I know about the NDIS through my coordinator of supports. I also do attend as many information sessions up in the Hunter. We have an organisation called Community Disability Alliance Hunter, which is a range of disabilities, and they hold a lot of workshops. Yeah, I'm now self-managing Daniel's plan, which is awesome. I love having that control and being able to, do what we want. But, yeah, it is a lot to wrap your head around.
Thank you. And the last question on this topic, just over in the corner here, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I have my brother that has very severe mental illness. He's been having this mental illness over 30 years now, and in and out from hospital long term since the Cumberland Hospital opened. Now it's all closed down, everything. Oh no, Rydermere Hospital, I'm sorry. And in about 5 years now that he has now have another illness, is Parkinson on top of that. He's now in mental health, Liverpool, over 3 years now. He hasn't got a home. He used to have a housing commission home unit. Now it's been taken away. Then we don't know what's going to happen to him. And then luckily in recent, just a couple of weeks, say a month, it seems that he has, not really a month, sorry, my memory is not so good too. About three weeks, then he's been introduced to have a support worker from New Horizon. Luckily, New Horizon having a Cambodian worker that he can communicate. And he seems just to put 2-3 days, and he seems a little bit more relaxed and happy, even though he's still in the hospital, and then the person come to see him at the hospital. And he hasn't got a home. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, the day when they actually move him out, because they are trying, the hospital trying to find us accommodation for him. And then I don't know what's going to happen. And so this is where I'm not sure whether his condition will be suitable under NDIS program. That's my questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, there are a number of people who are living in hospital wards around the state. We have been working with the therapists in southwest Sydney, which includes Liverpool Hospital, and I'd say that we're probably funding the support worker to actually provide the assistance at the moment. They will help identify the actual accommodation, and then we will include the funding for the accommodation in the person's plan. I think they've moved about 11 people out of long-term stay in southwest Sydney. So they've been doing quite an amazing job over there.
Can I say thank you? Those questions ranged right across access, eligibility, the difficulty of actually getting information the way you need it, the difficulty of actually even understanding that complex system. I'll do a quick introduction for the next session in a moment, but can I get you to thank Kathy for sharing her story? Thank you. It's never easy watching yourself on video. But particularly, you know, Daniel's awesome. Couldn't have imagined that a few years ago.
Well, he's still very unwell, but yeah, he's all we want is an ordinary life for him. You know, he can go to the movies, he can go out and have a burger without me having to do it.
And particularly, I just want you to reflect on the fact that when Kathy got a bit of time off, what did she go and do? Okay, that's going to be like many of you. And I don't think there's a conception of that outside in the general community. That, you know, you're actually got a few spare hours and you're going and helping somebody else. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you very much. And for Mary, it's always an unenviable task to try and explain government policy at any time, let alone a national change to insurance policies, disability, and now incorporating some mental health issues. So can I get you to thank her as well, because the big thing that came out for me was very clearly for the question there around, that goes back to know your rights, is if that support worker hasn't been contacting you, get in touch with them. If the service or the agency hasn't provided somebody in your first language or your main language, they need to do that, because that's part of their charter. But in order to find that, you've got to be really good at finding those rules. So that's the next section of this morning, and we're going to do a speed date version on this one. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Can I just mention one other thing? I'm presuming I'm allowed to mention it. I've been working with the Mental Health Coordinating Council for an online resource for people with mental illness and psychosocial disability. Hopefully that will be going live in another month or two. So for people with mental illness can go onto this and use it as a tool in accessing the NDIS to give them a guide, step-by-step guide to, try and navigate that. Sorry?
What's it called, Kathy?
Well, I don't know the name of the website yet because
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Cool. So that will be one of the things that we will put in the feedback from this. So if there are things just over the horizon, like the MHCC new program, but also, and I'm just going back briefly to what Mary said, tomorrow's the 1st of July 2017. So there are additional positions, like there's always a change, but 1st of July, new financial year, and particularly if you are struggling at getting information, that's the purpose of this next session, very briefly. I don't want you to design a pamphlet. I don't want you to design a poster, okay? They're specialists to do that, or you might get lucky enough to be part of a program and advise them like Kathy was. What I would like you to do on your tables is come up with 5 things only. I'm going to limit you. 5 top things of how you as a carer, from your own experience or the people you know and the families you know, 5 key things that will get the information from Mary's agency, the NDIA and the NDIS, yet more acronyms, to get you to the point where Kathy got with coordinated support, and then it went downhill, and then it's always that roller coaster. Basically, the question is, what do you need? 5 things to get where Kathy and her son are. To know that information, to get to the point where she now manages his plan. And we've had the example of budgets being really confusing. So it may not be literacy, it might be how to read a budget, how to actually understand the rules. So I'm limiting you to 5. Your time starts now. 5 things in 5 minutes. Go for it. Thank you again.